Leaked iPhone 17 covers illustrate exactly how massive camera bump may be on pros. There have been lots of speculations about the next phones anticipated from Apple before the year is over. Many are speculating Apple is preparing to unveil an iPhone 17 alongside the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max models, while also launching a very thin iPhone in order to fight with Samsung's anticipated Galaxy S25 Edge. Multiple renderings have leaked of all the speculated Apple devices, giving us an indication as to what we may be able to expect come September when they are scheduled to be presented, and now a set of case pictures have emerged corroborating the earlier drawings. The photographs were shared by leaker Majin Bu on X, previously Twitter, and they supposedly show cases for the iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Air, iPhone 17 Pro, and iPhone 17 Pro Max. The cases are all the same with a clear back and white detailing for MagSafe, very nearly replicating the official clear case with MagSafe Apple provides for its current iPhone lineup. The iPhone 17 case has the smallest camera cut out, only slightly larger than the iPhone 16 models, while the case for the iPhone 17 Air, as rumors have been calling the slim device, show a cutout that spans the width of the device, not too dissimilar from Pixel phones, but positioned higher up the rear. It's the iPhone 17 Pro and iPhone 17 Pro Max cases that are arguably the most remarkable in this leak, however, since those camera cutouts are surely not discrete. As we noted, they fit in with prior renderings, all of which show a camera housing for the iPhone 17 Pro models shifting from a square in the top left corner like the iPhone 16 Pro models to a housing that runs across the full width. For now, there's nothing to suggest these covers are authentic, but considering they do appear to corroborate prior speculations surrounding Apple's new iPhones, the design changes expected for this year are becoming more and more plausible as the months go by. With September many months away, it's conceivable things might change, so take these situations with a sprinkle of the old salt for now, but if you're pondering turning pro, be prepared for some adjustments at the same time. Apple exploring a possible price bump for the iPhone 17 series, and it reportedly plans to justify this increase by marketing the lineup's new features and design shift. A 20% tariff remains enforced by the Trump administration on Chinese imports, and sadly, people seeking to get their hands on any of Apple's iPhone 17 models will be disappointed since mobile devices are included by those levies. While Apple would want nothing more than to preserve the same pricing of its incoming range as last year to sustain competition with other brands, external economic circumstances may force its hand to ultimately offer a raise to the newest models. According to the newest source, Apple will seek to explain this rise by displaying the outward improvements and functions that have come to the iPhone 17 family. Apple could hike the pricing of some of its greatest devices. We've been hearing about prospective price spikes for a time now, but a new research warns us they may come sooner than many of us would have expected. Curiously, Apple is believed to avoid blaming tariffs a typical factor for price spikes in electronics for these revisions. Here's why. The information comes from the Wall Street Journal. The magazine says that Apple is contemplating hiking the cost of its autumn range, which implies the iPhone 17. This leak fits up with a few other ones of a similar sort that we've previously seen, which is why the dismal conjecture is beginning to seem an awful lot like truth. But of course, nothing's verified until Apple actually says so. Price spikes right now are nothing new, and many predict these increases owing to the US. Tariffs on China. Although the US and China apparently agreed to postpone most of the reciprocal tariffs, the WSJ notes that the 20% duty on Chinese imports is still in force, and Apple's products come under that umbrella. A lot of the production still takes place in China, at least as far as the high-end models are concerned. President Trump has also exempted smartphones from a separate tax, which is slated to be dropped from 125% to 10% under the new arrangement. Despite the fact that tariffs could play a factor in the price rises, Apple is apparently claiming other reasons. The Wall Street Journal adds that the corporation wants to justify the price rises with new features and design improvements instead. Apple also produces its iPhones in India, but the high-end versions, such as the Pro and Pro Max, are thought to continue being built in China, so the tariffs certainly play a factor. Apple is hoping to relocate more of the iPhone manufacture to India, but it's a process that takes time to scale. However, the design modifications are also accurate. Apple is rumored to be unveiling the new thin version of the iPhone in its autumn lineup, plus minor design tweaks to the rest of the models. Ultimately, until Apple makes an announcement regarding future price hikes, everything is, at best, an educated assumption. One thing is certain from the Wall Street Journal article, though: iPhones may cost more as early as this year, and that's something to consider when replacing your phone. A case for the iPhone 17 Air? That seems sensible. After all, the handset is claimed to be Apple's tiniest smartphone ever. However, the attachment isn't designed to shield the gadget from drops. It's supposed to serve an entirely other function. Next, iPhone 17 Air case leak tells us how much thicker the phone will be with added protection. The iPhone 17 Air is shaping out to be unlike any iPhone we've seen before, stressing design and appearances above anything else. Numerous leaks have shown how thin the phone may be, but a fresh claim discloses one critical piece of information: how much thickness might be added by cover. A movie published over on X purports to show what an iPhone 17 Air looks like when it really has a cover on it, contrasted to the speculated iPhone 17 Pro Max for good measure. Unsurprisingly, the cover does add some additional thickness, but it's still not as thick as a caseless iPhone 17 Pro Max. Let's just be clear, however, this isn't an actual iPhone 17 Air. Most likely it's a dummy device used by case manufacturers to test their wares ahead of the phone's actual introduction. So it suggests we should be a little suspicious about what we're seeing. Considering the major appeal of an iPhone 17 Air is its thickness, the fact that utilizing a protective case still maintains the size that of an iPhone 17 Pro Max is certainly a positive thing. Of course, the amount of additional thickness you obtain will likely depend on the case in question. The greater the protection supplied, the thicker the phone is going to wind up becoming. The same is true for weight, which leads to a slight problem. Simply read our guide to the best iPhone 16 cases for proof of that. While I may enjoy features of the iPhone 17 Air's appearance, I'd always be anxious that it's come at the sacrifice of durability. It wouldn't be without precedent, as sources indicate Apple has had to limit the iPhone 17 Air's battery life in order to keep the design. I don't trust a regular-sized smartphone without a cover, so I'm not sure I could manage with a super skinny one that doesn't have enough protection. But wrapping up a phone like this in too bulky a cover also negates the point of the design. Here's hope that the case manufacturers can account for this and keep the beauty of the iPhone 17 Air without placing it at danger of unintentional injury. We'll likely find out after the introduction of the phone later this year. For months, experts, insiders, and self-proclaimed leakers have been predicting that Apple is poised to debut a very unique smartphone in September 2025. According to sources, the purported iPhone 17 Air won't stand out for its camera, processor, or display. As the name indicates, it will instead have an extremely thin shell. It will supposedly be just 5.5 millimeters thick. Contrary to what one would believe, the main purpose isn't to safeguard the case from difficulty. Instead, the emphasis is on battery life. Apple's internal testing indicated that just 60 to 70% of purchasers can use their iPhone for a day without needing to recharge it. For some models, the number is believed to be between 80 and 90%. The rationale is obvious. The thin form makes the space for the battery reasonable. There's a contradiction at the core of phone design. Buyers desire quicker phones in smaller frames, yet the speedier the phone, the hotter the CPU becomes. You want to keep the heat away from the owner for obvious reasons, which is challenging with a thin frame. Clever engineering has mostly rendered this issue invisible to purchasers, even in the top phones with their powerful chipsets. Now it appears like Apple aims to incorporate a method found in high-end Android smartphones to keep its next iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max handsets cool under duress. A fresh Weibo tweet from the leaker, Instant Digital, states that both iPhone 17 Pro versions will employ vapor chamber cooling to deal with the power of the A19 Pro processor, rather than the traditional heat sinks used in current models. With A19 Pro's stronger thermal management, high load and high performance basically do not reduce frequency. A machine translation of his message ends. In other words, whereas existing models artificially restrict their speed when things become too hot, something known as throttling, the next phone's vapor cooling should remove the need for that, presumably providing you greater performance. If you're unfamiliar, my colleague Josh Render, who used to be a phone engineer, explains how vapor chambers operate here. The graphic demonstrating Xiaomi's method offers you an idea. In summary, a sealed chamber sits on top of the chip which holds a liquid. When the processor becomes heated, The liquid transforms into vapor, where it evaporates to another portion of the chamber, moving the heat away from the chip. As it cools, it condenses and returns to its original location, ready to start the process all over again. It isn't the first time we've heard tales of Apple utilizing vapor chamber cooling. Back in 2021, the analyst Majin Bu predicted that Apple would be aggressively testing the technology, and more recently another Chinese source indicated the update was in the pipeline, but for all iPhone 17 models. Kuo, meanwhile, stepped up again last year to forecast the cooling technology will only emerge with the iPhone 17 Pro Max. The fact that the iPhone 17 Air is absent from both Kuo's prior piece and today's projection is a bit alarming. The next ultra-thin handset's anticipated 5.5mm footprint implies that you're more likely to experience a device overheating than ever before, but it's conceivable it may utilize a less powerful CPU to compensate. Or maybe Apple will slow the processor in the iPhone 17 Air to avoid overheating. The iPhone 17 range isn't scheduled to ship until September. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tech news and updates. See you in my next video. Goodbye and peace out.